Hey guys, welcome back to Open Everything. I've got a good friend on today, Casey. Welcome to the podcast. So today, I want to talk about something that may have been on all of our minds. Maybe not. I don't really know. I just think it's a really cool topic of discussion. Maybe not. She just got back from Europe and did a week-long excursion doing yoga
Yeah.
and all this stuff. Well, we were catching up about it, and I want her to kind of talk about this even more, but we have the idea of polyamory come to mind. And we got on this topic a long time ago because she didn't want to have kids. I do. I just thought it was kind of like a cool thing to bring on a female to talk about the idea of why not kids or why multiple partners or all this stuff. So, yeah, that's
All
what,
of it.
all of it. So take this with a grain of salt, right? It's just a fun topic. Neither of us are polyamorous or monogamous as of this moment in time.
Correct. We are not experts on this topic at all.
Not at all. It's just an open-ended conversation, and we've got a couple of topics to discuss with you guys. So, welcome back to the States.
Thank you.
You told me you're moving to Europe soon.
I would love to move to Europe.
Why is that?
It's a different way of life over there. Like, everyone's just chiller, and it's just, there's more community. I don't know.
Did you end up visiting one of those nude beaches?
Of course I did.
Yeah,
we
you
went
did?
to a few different ones. I was at a week-long yoga retreat, though, so, like,
Yeah.
it was very reflective, and, we were in Europe, and did the European things. So
Yeah.
it was nice to just, like, feel free, and
I've never been to a nude beach.
you'd love it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be considered one of those, like, creepy guys, but
No.
isn't there, like, mostly old men on those things?
Very
Like,
old men.
that's what I hear.
Very old men. We happened to go to just a gay nude beach. We didn't realize we were at a gay nude
Oh.
beach, but lots of just, old,
So it was male specific.
very male specific.
Interesting.
And it was just a lot of old, like
Huh.
brown,
I don't.
very deep brown men.
Deep brown men.
Well,
Were
when
they
you're,
wearing
like,
the thongs?
when you're very tanned, right? And it's just like kind of leathery, like, that's
Oh.
what we were dealing with.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
But some people dig it, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've never thought that like there would be. Is there a female gay nude beach, like a lesbian
Maybe.
beaches?
Maybe.
I don't think they would like men there,
Probably not.
but
No.
the gay
They didn't mind.
they didn't mind.
They
Of course
didn't
they
mind.
didn't.
No.
See, that's
It's Europe.
segregation.
Whatever.
No, it's not segregation. No, I'm pretty sure I'm never gonna find myself on a lesbian beach because
Probably not.
I don't want to be that
The
guy.
creeper, yeah.
The
No.
creeper. So, polyamory. I looked this up, and I've kind of had the idea of it being like numerous loves. Like someone has, whether it's multiple physical relationships
Yep.
or multiple emotional relationships. Polyamory is like multi-love versus monogamy is
One person.
one person, right?
Yep.
And it's very normal to want to get married and be with one person for the rest of your life, but obviously that's not how it works 100% of the time,
Right.
right? Like divorce rate is pretty high,
Yep.
and I don't know if your parents are still together.
They are, but yours aren't.
Mine, yeah,
Right.
divorced when I was 3. So I have this kind of different perspective on the idea of it. My idea is I want what I never had.
You've always said that.
I want sit down family dinners. I want family vacations.
Right.
I want to believe that I could be with one person, a best friend of some sort, and we raise this little munchkin or multiple little. Like the idea of that in a monogamous perspective is so intriguing to me, but also
You're absolutely right.
like I don't know I could finish that statement, but also I've had numerous relationships in the past that didn't work out, or I've had connections with other people and it lasts for 2 years, it lasts for 3 years, maybe it lasts for 2 months. I mean, I don't know, but that's the idea of like I have loved numerous people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've connected with numerous people, and I feel like my take on polyamory is maybe a little different than yours.
I would agree, and I think it's somewhat the same. Like I think monogamy is a lot about the belief of like I have a soulmate, and there is this like one person in the world that like I am supposed to be with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I think is polyamory, and this is something that we've talked about, is like if I'm sharing a relationship with you, like I'm sharing love with you to some degree. Um, but like, does that mean that I think you're going to be my person for the rest of forever? Like,
That's a
that's a big thing.
it is.
And I've had like multiple people in my past where I've gotten great things out of 2 months or out of a year and a half. And is it something that like we have these societal pressures to say like this is what you should want, that like if you come from a divorced family or you come from a family that the parents have been together for 35 years or whatever it is, that you have to like find a partner and that you have to settle down and that you have to have kids and the white picket fence, like
Mm-hmm.
is that what we really want, or is that just what society is telling us is like the norm and what we should want?
Well, we're gonna get onto like emotions and
Yeah.
trust issues behind this idea, but if we were living in the 1400s,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was all about community. You didn't know whose baby this was, or even again from an animalistic perspective, bonobos and monkeys, they like have sex to say hello.
Right.
And it's just numerous mammals, if you will.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, I would say what a couple hundred years ago, families started putting people together to increase power and wealth and all this, and we were going to wed these two people to become again like more powerful. So yeah, I just think it's up to the person what they, I guess, believe in. Nothing's
Right.
necessarily right or wrong, but that's why I have you on, is to give me a little bit different insight.
Well, and I
different
think it's
perspective.
like it's not right or wrong, but I think what can tilt that line is like if you don't communicate what you believe in, or like if you don't, like set up expectations, which I know we'll talk about here in a minute, but I think that's when it becomes really messy, or that's when people get hurt, or things can be seen as wrong.
Well, two different ideals. Like again, all this for the whole podcast is hypothetical.
Totally.
Like
I've been in monogamous relationships, but like that obviously didn't work out, and
yeah.
by no means am I like sister wiving over here, but like polyamory. I think there's something very enticing about polyamory.
Well, I think I really I put this topic on her a few weeks ago when she was telling me about her
Yeah.
her whole trip, and she told me again, yeah, she didn't want to have kids, and I do. So it's almost like the idea of polyamory while raising a child, or like I would want that my baby mama, if you will, to be around, but is she going to put up with me loving other women?
Or is that like the right example to be raising, or the right environment to be raising a child in? Like, I don't know.
Probably,
I don't know.
Who knows? What if the kid gets all the love from
all of them, everyone?
From everyone.
Then great.
That almost comes back to again the old community ways of
Right.
like, we don't know whose child this is,
But like the community raises
but
the kid.
yeah, we all love this thing.
No, but you're right. Whereas for me, like the desire to not have kids is almost like you want to have, and I think so, right? Like you want to have this like being that's yours, that's like part of you, that like you get to raise and like experience life through. Whereas I think for me, it's almost like the inverse, where it's like and this is going to sound so selfish, but like I don't want to give my time up, or like the life that I'm working for, and commit it to something for like not just 18 years, but like their whole life, right? And we could go 100 different ways, but like, the world's blowing up, right? And like, do I want to sit and watch it? No. But like, do I want to bring a child into the world and then have them also watch it?
The first path I thought I was like, you don't want to be responsible for fucking them up and then blaming you when you're 20, when they're 25.
When they have to pay a lot of money for therapy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
For sure. But
I love my mom and dad.
I do too. They're great. They made their mistakes in the past, but
right.
No?
But I'm figuring it out.
Well, it's funny. I'm not trying to almost hate on them, but my mom's been married 6 times.
Right.
My dad's been married 3 times, but my dad's been single for the past 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most calm, content humans on earth that I know. And then my mom still seeks attention, and which is totally fine. So I have these two role models that I idealize my dream through this broken marriage, but also that's what I'm used to.
Right.
Like the whole concept of being with one person forever is so intriguing to me, but it's so foreign at the same time.
Yep.
And whether I've been in multiple long-term relationships, where are they at? And that, not to say anybody that's watching or listening to this now, they're probably happily married, and I envy you guys.
But there's a reason, why that's not still the truth, why you're still not in that relationship.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
Communication was off, or
sure. There's 100 things, right?
Yeah.
Your past is your past.
Yeah. So actually, that's funny. We have a topic to talk about possession versus freedom. I'm going to be vulnerable here right now. One of my biggest flaws is the idea of I'm a protective natured person. If I'm agreeing to be with this human being, we are together.
Yes.
You are mine. Going back to feeling like we're in some kind of jungle in the single world, I have to be a little protective of the person I'm investing my time with and investing my emotions with. So it's not a possessive characteristic. It's just it's a protective. I'll have to go to war with some other guy, just like two rams go into it,
sure,
and they fight to the fucking death. I'm not that, that intense, but that's how I am in monogamous relationships. Versus, again, the idea of freedom of loving multiple people. Do I lose that perspective or that possessive characteristic and go for freedom, even though maybe that's not what I want, but it's totally natural to me?
And I think I've started to think about this, isn't it so person dependent, right? There are some people that I can have polyamorous relationships with, right? But then there are some people that I meet and those things around possession and jealousy start to come out, and I start to feel myself lean towards the monogamous. But I think it's very different, right, for every person. It's all about communication, and it's all about if that protective kind of instinct is kicking in, then I think it means something greater than this is a person that I'm with because they fulfill me in X, Y, and Z way, and I think it's greater than that.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you say that. Going on the idea of it depends on the person, right? Probably depends on their emotional intelligence, their emotional stability. I know trust issues is probably a big thing that we all have to experience. We all feel jealousy and it makes me feel what kind of person would want to have 15 different partners, or what makes a person want to have one partner?
Right.
It's, I don't know, how often or how open do people have to be in order for whatever their idea is to work? Monogamy is kind of my idea, my dream, but in reality I understand why people have numerous loves. I love some of my best friends who are men.
Right.
I have a ton of emotional connections with women that's strictly platonic. Is that under the category of polyamory?
And not to flip back to your mom, right? But she's been married 6 different times, right? Is that monogamy, or is that polyamory where she's been able to have all these different very important loving relationships, right? But it's not been this one person for forever.
Right.
And so I think monogamy in the idea of it, right, is I would love to get married, but is that the one person, or is polyamory my friends and my family and potentially a really incredible partner who may or may not be there for forever.
Yeah. So that's, the title of this podcast is The Idea of Polyamory. My idea is that I guess I'm polyamorous who wants to be monogamous. Like, and we'll talk about this later about physical versus emotional
Right.
relationships within that category, but I have so much care and love for so many people that I guess that makes me polyamorous. But I don't know if some people would deem it as, oh, it's multiple physical partners as opposed to multiple emotional partners, because I'm emotionally connected to many people. And I hope that doesn't necessarily rub someone the wrong way who has grown up, whatever their idea is, like, no, we're together. You can't have
those types of special relationships with other people, whatever that means, whether it's physical or emotional, because like it's us.
Yeah, it's us.
Right.
And you said like once you start to feel that jealousy or insecurity, you're going to lean towards a monogamy type of idea. It's because you probably really like that person.
Right.
And you don't want to get hurt, or you don't want to see.
Right, but I think it's right. So like if I'm talking to someone and I notice that I start to like be like, oh, are they going to text me back? Or like, oh, I really wish I was like talking to that person, right? Like we all do that with different people that we meet. Is it naive of me to think that like that's who I'm going to marry? Or is it naive of me to think that like that's going to be the person, right? Like I think it's more realistic to take a step back and say, like, I can let this relationship be whatever it needs to be for the time. And if that means that like it's a person that I walk down the aisle with, then great. But it can also be that like it's a person I walk down the aisle with and it might not make it. And like, do you have to be open to the fact that there are other people that can fulfill you, and that like that one person doesn't have to fulfill everything?
That's true. I usually say all of my connections are very real, always. Yeah. Whether it's 2 hours, 2 days, 2 years, 10 years. And do they serve a very unique format in my heart? I don't know.
Sure.
Like, of course they do. But that all is under the umbrella of love. I love individuals that can fulfill me with inspiration or competition or vulnerability and all this stuff. Do I think that I could have everything in one person? Naively, I do.
Absolutely. Naively, totally.
Naively is the right word here, I guess, the context, because I want to believe that, and I feel like I can based on my personality.
And society's raised me to believe, Disney's raised me to believe that everything can be checked by one person.
Disney, yeah.
I don't know, but like, like that kind of like, not Disney necessarily, but like
the love stories.
The
fantasies.
That like it is all one person.
Yeah.
But is it because you talk about your friends?
Well,
right?
I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I've come across plenty of jealous or...
Oh, yeah.
I hate using the word crazy.
It's not
so creative individuals.
It's not crazy. Yeah, it's jealousy and it's like passion that comes out in potentially a messy way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So again, I mean, I like to consider myself polyamorous in a sense of just external love, but it doesn't have to be physical at all.
No.
And again, with someone's emotional stability or insecurity level or jealousy level, are they going to be okay with me having numerous relationships outside of that, even though I'm extremely monogamous with that person? Well, then it's like, I had a podcast last season about open relationships, and I'll bring it back because this is how I feel. I don't get them. I don't understand them, because then you're giving love to numerous people and you're not giving that your whole to one person. So now that I feel like it contradicts what I would forever believed in, because no, I want to be able to do that. I want to be free and be given the trust enough to
give my love
to others,
but not necessarily in a physical way.
No sexuality,
right?
Yeah, incurred or portrayed. It's just the connection, I guess. And I have numerous emotional connections, and I kind of want that to be accepted
Right.
for what it is.
Right.
And if I feel that it isn't, then it may not work out. Even though I'm communicative, I'm open to what you need in your life. But if she was like, yeah, I'm going to go fuck other guys, absolutely not. I'm
No.
not okay with that.
Right.
Which is, again, just the idea of polyamory. That's what we're talking about today.
And you feel that way when you're in a monogamous relationship, right? And
Yes.
so like when you're dating and you're single, I feel like a lot of that is polyamorous, right? Because like you're giving, if I'm dating someone and I start sleeping with them, it's not that I like I'm still giving my love to that person. Like we're not, like we're not dating, you're not my end all be all, like you're not my boyfriend, but like the time that I'm giving you and like the connection that we're sharing, like that's love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just interesting that like dating, right, is very polyamorous, and how it turns into this like
right
defined one thing when like you've been when you date, you're potentially hanging out with more than,
and that's okay.
right.
Society says
That's okay.
that dating numerous people is okay.
Mm-hmm. And like that if I'm sleeping with multiple people while we're dating, that like that's okay. But the second it becomes monogamous, that becomes an open relationship, and the jealousy and like all of that, I think it's just it's so deeply layered.
It is. I almost wonder if dating apps has its influence on that idea.
Monogamy or polyamory?
Polyamory. A lot of people in the single world, particularly in Denver. I mean,
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Everybody's all free-spirited and trying to figure themselves out, which is, again, fine.
Which is great.
It's fantastic.
Everyone should figure themselves out.
But, again, people come into those with expectations
Mm-hmm.
and the story that they develop in their head from childhood or whatever. And they're upset. They're upset at 33, and I'm speaking from a male's perspective, towards a female who's 30, 33, doesn't have a kid, and she's upset. But she's also talking to 6 or 7 different guys. Am I supposed to be okay with that? Well, we haven't had that discussion to say, what do you want out of this?
Right.
So, again, obviously communication and trust are huge. And
no, but I think like that's where ghosting comes into play, right? And like, does it kind of, and I can say this because I'm a 26-year-old female, but like it's kind of this like Bachelorette, right? Like we watch Bachelor and Bachelorette every week, and like we watch someone date like more than one person, and then you get on a dating app and you're like, oh, I can talk to multiple people. And I think it does, it's a little naive to like not sit there and ask yourself like, how does this impact the other people that I'm talking to?
That's
right?
Selfishness versus like, I want to get to know you more.
Right. But like, what's the harm in saying I want to get to know you more and like, I don't want commitment?
That's true. I think The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, side note, are horrible.
Which is fine.
Figments of reality. But what's crazy is it's reality TV.
The psychology behind it is all still, like, it's kind of, you're watching someone date multiple people and like how the jealousy comes into it. And
but like Katie on this last one probably passed up 10 different guys to settle for the one that didn't leave her. It was so weird. The guy who really wanted her put his ultimatum down. Well, you're going to get a rose next week. What the fuck? I don't want a rose. I want you to tell me that you love me. And she went around the whole thing. The whole idea, even though she loved him, right? She went around the whole thing to say like, well, I told myself I wasn't going to do this until the last episode. And I was watching that cringing, like, what are you doing? Like, So good.
Whereas I watched that, while we're just on the topic, whereas I watched that and I'm like, at a girl, like she's dating multiple people. She doesn't want to like lead anyone on. Like she wants to like be like, nope, this is like I'm not going to tell you that it's legit until I know it's legit. So like, whereas like from a female perspective, I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Like
But
Do
that's
it.
the Bachelorette, all
I
right?
know.
She was going to end up with someone wanting to marry her or whatever.
That's what you sign up for.
But in real life,
No, it doesn't happen
dating
like that.
situations, well, you're dating five guys
Right.
and you push one away because you didn't give them the love that they were seeking, right? Like the quality time. Well, I
Sure.
only get to see you once every 2 weeks. Well, what are you doing? I want to hang out with you every day, every other day. And that person could have had what she wanted,
Totally.
but she didn't. She wasn't
Which I
aware.
think it all just comes back to communication and expectation.
Yeah.
Where like if that's how you're feeling, whether that's like the male or the female in the relationship, or the male and the male, right? Like it goes both ways. It goes into all different kinds of relationships. I think it's about the like communication, and if we don't talk for 2 weeks, like it's not because I don't appreciate you or I don't have love for you. It's like that's what this relationship is.
Yeah. Well, and that's beautiful because again, I also had this idea with her. Hypothetically, if you were wanting a polyamorous relationship, would you want it to be in the sense of what we were talking about, emotional relationships, connections, or would you want the freedom to be able to sleep with multiple people? Because it feels like both of us are still on this monogamous idea, but we may have polyamorous tendencies.
Yeah, I think.
And that goes back to, again, people in the dating scene or the single world probably sleeping around.
Right.
But these other partners probably don't know about it. So if you were to be communicative with someone who you like, who likes you, would you be okay with them sleeping or you sleeping with numerous people?
I think in my current life state and where I'm at right now, yes. Could that change if I meet someone and there's totally a world where like I meet someone and this all gets flipped on its head, right?
Right.
Absolutely. I'm not denying that fact. But yeah, like I think there is a world, a hypothetical world where I could be sleeping with a few different people and like everyone's on the same page and you're fulfilled physically, and I think each of those people, it's not the same relationship, right? So like there's different emotional fulfillment that comes through each of those. And so I think there's a world where it could happen. And I think that's like a lot of what like open dating in your 20s and early 30s is. Instead of just like dating one person and being like, oh, I'm going to go all in on this person before I really even know like everything about them.
I feel like it takes years to get to know someone.
I would agree.
And I don't know, do you think that opinion that you just had is based on you not wanting to have a kid?
I think it's not wanting to have a kid and a fear based on just what I know of myself that a relationship that I get into, I won't be invested in full time. Like I feel like in my previous relationships, and we've talked about this a little bit, where I've like woken up one day and I'm like, this isn't right. Like this isn't it.
Yeah.
And so I think part of that comes from this fact of like, what happens if I'm married to someone or I've like chosen this monogamous relationship with someone and then I wake up one day and that's not what I want anymore.
And you can't foreshadow that.
Right.
You can't even begin to say this is going to happen.
Right.
Especially if you're in lust or in love.
Right. And so does and granted, I might just be like fully naively turning my head away from like being hurt and growth and all of that. But does like polyamory allow for you to like explore more and like be as loving and potentially just like not have to hurt someone?
So I haven't uploaded this. Actually, if you're listening to this now,
it's uploaded.
It's uploaded. But the last podcast, we started talking about like addictive behavior and tendencies. And I agree. This phase of my life, that idea of polyamory just makes sense. But I also have this idea of I want to have a kid. And would I be okay with us raising a kid and having numerous relationships? I don't think so. That's speculative.
Right.
But if I have this thought or this idea adopted and it's okay and it makes sense, and I duplicate it until I'm 40, 50, then I will have made it an addictive, not addictive behavior,
But a habit.
but
Yeah.
it's a habit of this is just how I think. So I don't know if there's going to be a time in my life where I'm like, yep, I met the rad person. I'm going to go back to this protective, possessive guy that like, well, yeah, so what? I did that in my 20s and 30s, but we're together now. Like it could be flipped on its head too. That's what I'm saying.
But I think that's the cool part, right? Is you don't have to go back, right? Like that's where, like it doesn't have to be black and white. You don't have to choose like polyamory or monogamy. Like you can live in this period of time that like can be polyamorous, and then like you can go be monogamous, and you don't have to take those like toxic traits of like possessiveness and like jealousy, right? Which can benefit you in some degree, but like you don't have to, like you can grow through that and learn how to like have a healthy monogamous relationship based on everything you've learned from your polyamorous partners.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want to be in a toxic monogamous relationship. I don't want to be in a toxic polyamorous relationship.
No.
And that's, I guess, another question is there a primary relationship and then there's secondary and tertiary physical flings? Sure. And they're not relationships, but they're under the like I love this person, I'm with that person. I guess that's an open relationship.
I think if there's a primary relationship, that's an open relationship.
Okay. In polyamory, there's no label, there's no title, right? Like
I don't think so. I mean, but like I could be wrong.
Is a swinger polyamorous?
I think that's monogamous.
That's monogamous, but
because you've got your primary relationship.
Yeah.
But is it polyamorous because you're getting your needs fulfilled in other ways? Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it comes back to where we started, and it's like everyone has this definition of polyamory that like may or may not be the same. And that's okay.
Yeah. It is okay. We're having this conversation to at least you're listening to open everything. Just be open to it. It's not that you have to accept it. It's something to give you ideas or thoughts behind, and not anything's right or wrong. Mm-mm. It's just what have you considered? And if you, well, I'm not going to say label because I think a lot of people get messed up on labels.
Or they overthink them, and yeah.
Goes back to the first episode where it's the story that you tell yourself about yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, we develop all these expectations based on the story, whether it's our old story or our new current one that we're building with this person. I don't see how it's feasible, and touche, kudos to anybody that can do it happily, successfully, but I don't get it because it goes back to emotions. I'm going to feel hurt that I have to share someone. But if I don't label it that way, and it's just dating in the single world, I'm totally fine with everybody fucking everybody. It's weird. It's like a weird conundrum. And that's why I wanted to have you on and talk about this with me.
But we'll see, right? Like I just said, you could meet someone in a week that like changes the whole game, right? And like, so I don't want to be naive to the fact, and like I don't want to cut that possibility off. Like I think I would love to get married, right? But does that mean that like how I have to live up until getting married has to be monogamous?
Well, and then the idea of marriage, you're in love with that one human being, but it's just a contract. If you guys decide to both amend the contract, then that's cool too. Again, openness and communication and trust are big things. It's so interesting.
It is, because we date very polyamorously, and then there's this expectation that you just have to like flip a switch and everyone's monogamous.
It's everybody's idea or the definition
or the expectation from society.
The American dream, you know.
2.5 kids.
2.5 kids.
With my white picket fence.
I was just about to say white picket fence. That's funny. Yeah, so thanks for tuning back in. Thanks for coming on.
Having me.
Of course. Until next time, guys.